One of the most glamorous stars the screen has ever known.
And one of the most beautiful women in the world.
Well, shall we all say it together? I think we all know. Girl in the world. Hedy Lamarr.
Hedy Lamarr, right.
Hedy Lamarr was known as the world's most beautiful woman, with a face so iconic that it would become the model for the looks of Snow White and Catwoman. But Lamarr was far from just the picture-perfect cover girl that she's known as. She was a record-breaking actress, fierce feminist, Nazi fighter, and perhaps one of the most brilliant inventors of her time. This is her story. The daughter of Viennese banker and pianist, Lamarr was privately tutored from age 4. By the time she was 10, she was a proficient pianist and dancer and could speak 4 languages. By age 17, she made her motion picture debut in the 1930s film Money on the Street. She achieved both stardom and notoriety in the Czech film Ecstasy, in which she briefly but controversially appeared nude. Just 19, her film appearance landed her in the middle of a scandal. Promising to save her from the controversy was Austrian munitions manufacturer for the Nazi regime, Fritz Mandl, who forced her into marriage. Mandl was not looking to marry a movie star, however, just a woman who could serve as a good hostess and pretty face to his many high-profile guests. Prohibiting her from making any film appearances, he kept her home entertaining his business associates, including Hitler's and Mussolini's henchmen. Serving dinner and cocktails and tending to the needs of her husband's associates, she was provided a front seat to conversations about weapon technology, military strategy, and the rise of Nazism in Europe. Mandl wrongfully assumed that because of her looks, she didn't have the intelligence to comprehend their discussions. His assumption couldn't have been farther from the truth. Lamarr took notes, developing a complex understanding of weaponry and warfare, all while planning her escape from her abusive husband and the impending threat of Nazism.
Evening, Hedy drugged the maid, literally, with sleeping pills. The maid went to sleep, and Hedy escaped out the window, made her way to Paris, then over to London. She came to the United States on the Normandy.
After arriving as a refugee in America, she settled in LA, where she sought to reestablish herself in the film industry. After negotiating her salary to receive 3 times what she was offered, she began working as an actress under the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios. Building her career in America, she fought linguistic barriers, anti-Semitism, and sexism. Despite her setbacks, she mystified American audiences with her grace, beauty, and accent. Lamarr's first Hollywood movie was Algiers in 1938, where she played the role of a glamorous seductress. The film would go on to be nominated for 4 Academy Awards and take home an Oscar, launching her into stardom. She soon took on Lady of the Tropics in 1939, where again Lamarr played a beautiful, glamorous seductress of exotic origin. She continued to find roles in various popular films as her title of the most beautiful woman in the world allured millions. Her last film under her acting contract came in 1945, after which she left the contract and set up her own production company, becoming one of the first female producers in all of Hollywood. As if it wasn't enough to be a famous movie star and a producer, Lamarr was a scientist simultaneously. She dated businessman and pilot Howard Hughes, but was most notably interested with his desire for innovation. Hughes helped to fuel the innovator in Lamarr, giving her a small set of equipment to use in her trailer on set. While she had an inventing table set up in her house, the small set allowed Lamarr to work on inventions between takes. Hughes took her to his airplane factories, showed her how the planes were built, and introduced her to the scientists behind the process.
He relied on me. I thought the aeroplanes were too slow. I decided that's not right. They shouldn't be square, the wings. So I bought a book of fish, and I bought a book of birds, and I used the fastest bird connected it with the fastest fish, and I drew it together and showed it to Howard Hughes, and I said, "You're a genius." And
You did?
Yeah.
She went on to create an upgraded stoplight and a tablet that dissolved into water to make its soda similar to Coca-Cola. However, her most significant invention was engineered as the United States geared up to enter World War II. growing up in a Jewish family in Austria, then being forced to flee the country as a refugee, the spread of Nazism was extremely personal to her. She felt an obligation to support war efforts wherever she could, so she went back to her drawing board. At the time, the Germans' navy was at the verge of winning the war. They easily outmaneuvered the outdated British torpedoes. Hedy knew a little about this. Her notes from her marriage to Mandel detailed complex information about German weaponry that would prove vital to her future invention. She was aware that radio transmission on one frequency could be easily jammed or intercepted, but she reasoned that if signals could be sent over multiple radio frequencies, the enemy would be unable to recognize them and therefore unable to intercept them. The actress had envisioned a system of frequency hopping. She brought this theory to famous composer George Antheil. Though George was no scientist, he had worked as a munitions inspector for the U.S. and knew a little about weapon technology. The two of them combined Lamarr's theory with Antheil's skills as a composer to create a system of frequencies that could prevent interception of radio waves by the German, allowing British torpedoes to reach their targets. This secret communication system, or frequency hopping spread spectrum technology, had the potential to level the playing field. After its creation, Lamarr and Antheil sought a patent and military support for the invention. While awarded a patent in August of 1942, the Navy decided against the implementation of the new system. Lamarr was told that she would be better off to sit still and look pretty. So Hedy did just that and more. To raise money for war bonds, she began selling kisses for $25,000. In a single night, she raised $7 million just by standing still and looking stupid. Over time, she raised $25 million. In today's money, that's more than $220 million. 20 years later, the U.S. found itself in the midst of the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the Soviet Union sent a convoy of missiles to Cuba. In response, President John F. Kennedy instituted a naval blockade of Cuba. The ships were all outfitted with the technology Lamarr and Antheil had developed for World War II and gave to the U.S. Navy. Unfortunately for the inventors, 20 years was enough time for the original patent to expire, so neither Lamarr or Antheil received any credit or monetary compensation for their contribution. Beyond the Cuban Missile Crisis, we have Lamarr's invention to thank for our beloved iPhones. Her frequency-hopping technology made it possible for us to have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and GPS that are used by billions across the globe.
Hedy Lamarr's legacy lives on yet today. Every time we check our phone, listen to the radio, or Google something on the internet, we have her to thank for paving the way far before people would listen.
I'll read you something pretty. People are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, alternative motives. Do good anyway. The biggest people with the biggest ideas can be shut down by the smallest people with the smallest mind. Think big anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. Give the world the best you have and you'll be kicked into the sea. Give the world the best you've got anyway.